The paper on my door didn't need the red ink to shout. Final notice, outstanding balance, days to vacate. The kind of letter that changes how you breathe. I stood in the hallway pretending to study the lifted corner of tape, the way humidity curls cheap adhesive, because numbers felt sharper if I looked at them straight on. 4,200, 30 days. A chorus joined in. Credit cards, student loans, the car bill that clicks over whether you move or not. When the math runs you instead of the other way around, even your heartbeat counts out loud. 6 months earlier, I had an ID badge and a morning commute that tasted like coffee and routine. Now the hallway smelled like someone's dinner and old plaster, the two notes of my building's permanent perfume. My phone hummed an unknown number with a local area code. Collectors learn new names every week. The hum quit, then returned, as if it also worked a schedule. I let it pass. I juggled the sticking lock and stepped into the life of a man who'd stopped making piles make sense. Dishes, laundry, paper, worry. I didn't call my parents. Shame rings longer than any phone. I called Jordan. He has a gift for answering on the second ring, like he's mid-sprint between plans. He asked how I was in the tone people use when they already know. I told him the truth in small pieces. Eviction. Nowhere left to push the due dates. He went quiet long enough for traffic to pass on his end. There's a thing, he said. Unusual, but clean. Nights only. Monday through Friday. You sit in a house. You keep presence. They want reliability, not heroics. What's the pay? $3,000 a week. Cash. The number knocked the wind out of me. New math began to write itself. Rent caught up, groceries with actual ingredients, a little quiet inside my chest. Too good is a phrase people use when things arrive at the wrong time. This arrived exactly when desperation had sanded down my questions. What's the catch? No lights, no electronics, no calls. You arrive by 8 at night and do not leave until 8 in the morning. Do not go upstairs. Follow the rules. You get paid Friday. Break them. You don't. No lights in an empty house. A rule that sounded like superstition or insurance. I told him yes, because the eviction notice was still on my table like a second mouth. Riverside is a neighborhood built for evening walks. Quiet streets, old maples making shadows you could fold yourself into. The house at 1247 was neither haunted nor eager to be. White siding, black shutters, porch too small for a swing but big enough for shoes. Jordan waited at the curb in a black jacket that made his smile look like it belonged to someone 5 minutes late to something fun. He pressed one brass key into my palm. This is yours until Friday. Don't lose it. Inside smelled like closed rooms. Dust and another note I couldn't place, cool and tired as if the house had learned not to exhale. Furniture slept under sheets. Heavy curtains muzzled the night. The living room held a brown leather recliner softened by someone else's years. Kitchen to the right, bathroom down a small hall, staircase straight ahead climbing into the part of the house I'd been told not to know. You'll stay here, he said, meaning the chair. Water if you need it, but no lights. Don't open the curtains, do not go upstairs, don't make noise, don't leave. That's the whole gig. Why the upstairs rule? His eyes tucked themselves behind something flat. It doesn't concern you. He checked his watch the way people do when they trust time more than company. Remember, he said at the door like he had practiced the cadence. No lights, no leaving, no noise, no upstairs. Friday is waiting if you sit still. After his car bled away down the block, the house and I looked at each other. The street lights painted thin lines around the curtains. My eyes adjusted until shapes remembered their names. A quiet neighborhood pours itself into you one small sound at a time. A dog across the way, a last car. A TV laugh turned into blue static in someone else's living room. My phone showed 7:45, 12 hours and a handful of minutes. I leaned into the recliner and let the leather take a mold of me. It didn't yet know. You don't realize how loud your own blood is until the room stops offering you other options. The first hour went by like a polite guest. I inventoried the room because listing calms the nervous parts. Fireplace with bookcases on either side, sheeted sofa, coffee table littered with old magazines, a scuff on the floor like someone dragged a heavy thing through the middle once and refused to admit it. At 11:15, the silence acquired punctuation. Tap, tap, tap. A pause long enough to make you think you imagined it, then the same 3 small strikes. Not a random drip, not ductwork yawning, a measured hand finding a surface, counting. I looked up, though I'd already guessed where the sound lived. Overhead. Moving. Slow enough to be sure of itself. Fast enough that it was not just the house remembering to stretch. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Traversing from the front of the house to somewhere closer to the kitchen. It went quiet again. The kind of quiet that has a face. Old houses make noises, Jordan had said, and I could imagine his shrug, the economy of his grin. I stayed seated because that was the job, because $3,000 a week comes tied to new definitions of patience. The next sound didn't ask permission. 3 heavier blows, close together, separated by breath, then 3 more. The kind of thud a fist makes when it decides the wall will learn its name. It traveled the upstairs, and then it didn't. It returned in a different room, as if the house were a map being tested for weak spots. My fingers closed around the recliner's arms. I counted again because counting is a gentle lie you tell yourself to stay human. It stopped. The air recovered itself in small increments. Refrigerator hum, faraway tire hiss. I slept in minute-long edits that taught me the texture of half-dreams. I woke to my own neck aching like I'd been holding a phone between shoulder and ear for years. Just after midnight, the census resumed. The taps had become impatient, the banging closer with weight. Footsteps entered the conversation, not the skitter of small life, but steps that carried a decision. Front room to back room, a pause. The same path again. Footfall is a grammar. It speaks even when it's forced to whisper. I stayed where the money wanted me. I reminded myself who I was paying by not moving. Landlord, collectors, the version of me that slept without adrenaline. At 2 a.m, the house changed the question. A crack sounded from the kitchen, the kind that doesn't belong to distance. Not upstairs, not in the walls. Here. It rattled the coffee table a fraction. Glass trembled somewhere I could not see. Then a softer noise took over, the low animal of hinges remembering their work. I stood because my body decided sitting was a lie. The floor announced me in groans and sighs the way old wood does when it recognizes a weight for the first time in years. The kitchen doorway framed a darker square. The air out there had a different temperature, a basement's breath, cool and slightly wet, like stone that has kept a secret. Moonlight made a rectangle on the linoleum. Beyond the refrigerator, a door stood open that had not existed an hour ago inside any floor plan I'd been given. White frame with paint tired at the corners, dark wood slab, brass knob gone dull with someone else's hand. Inside the rectangle, steps dropped out of the world into an unlit down. The new sound, the one I had not allowed myself to name, lived under those stairs. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. Each set evenly spaced as if someone were holding their fear steady with a clock. Beneath it, a texture like breath folded through cloth. A thread of voice too thin to be a word. The rules rose in me like a song you hate but know by heart. No lights, no leaving, no noise, no upstairs. I realized there had never been a rule about down. I stood with one hand on the doorframe and listened until the rhythm built a shape in my head. It wasn't plumbing. It wasn't wood. It was a human pattern practiced into muscle memory. I have sat with enough debts to know what desperation feels like in the throat. It feels like this. Counted, controlled, repeated so you do not slip. 3 knocks, a breath, 3 more, a breath that shook at the edges. I told myself that if I turned back now, I would keep my job and my apartment and my future worth of small meals and manageable shame. I told myself that if I descended, I would learn something that would not fit back in my chest afterward. Then the knock stuttered, once, like a message running out of heat. I placed my foot on the first stair. The wood spoke in a long ache. The cool rose to meet my face as if it had been waiting for me for longer than this night. My fingers searched the wall for a railing that wasn't there. I counted the steps because I wanted proof later that the descent had a number. I thought I heard the breath again. Closer, the smallest scrape of fabric against metal, the throat of someone trying not to waste sound. I went down. The basement swallowed sound. The moment I leaned forward, the house above sealed itself into a different world, like I'd stepped through a curtain made of silence. My heels searched for the second stair and found it, the wood bowing under a weight it did not welcome. The darkness wasn't empty. It had depth, a cold with layers, like air that hadn't been allowed to move. I counted aloud in my head because the rules forbade noise, but my nerves required ritual. 2, 3, 4. On the fifth step, I paused. The knocking below answered my movement. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Steady. Desperate. Practiced. Not animal. Not accident. I tasted dust, old and metallic. My fingertips brushed the wall, unfinished concrete sandpapered with time. My feet found the 6th, 7th, 8th steps by the slight temperature shift alone. The air thickened as if the house had lungs and this part never exhaled. 9, 10. The staircase turned left at the bottom into a black that didn't allow imagination. It imposed its own pictures. My pulse wanted out of my throat. The knocking slowed, as if listening to me think. A faint glow leaked from somewhere deeper. Not light exactly, more like the memory of one. Shapes resolved, pipes running overhead, cardboard boxes collapsed into themselves, something hanging from a nail like a forgotten coat or a shed skin. I reached the floor. The concrete was so cold it stung through my sock. The knocks came again, closer. But they weren't against a wall. They were against something hollow. I stepped toward the glow, one hand grazing the rough perimeter of a support beam that felt damp. Every instinct wanted me upstairs, in the recliner, pretending none of this existed. But I had been listening to footsteps all night that weren't mine. Something else had broken the rules first. As I moved, the glow became clearer. A bare bulb, unlit, but reflecting light from somewhere I couldn't see. Beneath it, a metal door. Heavy. Industrial. Wrong for this kind of house. Rust crawled across its surface like frost patterns. The handle had no lock, just a dented push plate. Black marker scraped across it read, "Hold still." They can see motion. The knock slammed again, so loud my knees folded without permission. A human fist. And the breath behind it, the scrape, the ragged insistence, belonged to someone who wasn't supposed to be here. Help. Not a scream, not even a word. Just the shape of it inside the knocks. I leaned close, ignoring the cold sweat trailing my back. My ear found the metal. Something shuffled on the other side, weight shifting, fabric dragging. Then a voice, small, cracked, almost too thin to believe. Please, please, don't let them take me again. It was a child. Everything in my body rebelled. A rule is easy to obey when the alternative is inconvenient. But when the alternative is a child crying in the dark, rules become suggestions. My hand hovered above the push plate. Upstairs answered. Not footsteps this time. A rapid scramble across floorboards. Then the sharp slam of a door swinging open somewhere near the staircase I just descended. Whatever had been pacing above now knew exactly where I was. The child behind the metal whispered fast, terrified. Don't move. They see movement first. My breath stuttered. I backed into the darkest corner available, trying to become stillness. The glow caught the metal door like a half smile, enough to betray movement if I twitched. Then a face appeared, not from the metal door. Above, at the top of the stairs, silhouetted by the faint streetlight leaking through the curtained living room. Shoulders too broad, neck too short. A shadow shaped like a person who had been poured into human form from a container that didn't quite fit. It leaned forward, sniffing. I didn't breathe. I didn't think breathing existed. I became the idea of a statue that regretted learning motion. The figure stepped downward, each movement careful, too careful, like it was imitating how legs should bend. The child's whisper threaded through the dark. Wait for it to pass. Please wait. The shadow moved to the turn in the stairs, one step at a time, head rotating not like a person but like a puppet searching for its puppeteer. It paused exactly where I had paused, the 5th step. I wondered if it counted too. My muscles screamed for action. Fight, flee, anything but pretend to be furniture. But the rules weren't made for my safety. They were made to protect something else. The figure turned its head toward the basement floor, and for the first time I saw its eyes. They were open too wide. No whites, just black. Black like the gap between floors. Black like a pupil grown jealous and devoured its iris. They moved in increments, clicking from point to point like a motion sensor. It tilted its head once, tiny, curious. Then it stepped backward. 1, 2, 3, until the shadow rejoined the upstairs darkness. A door eased closed with a click that sounded like teeth. My lungs returned in small debts. The child behind the door spoke again. They watched from above. They take people who move. They keep us down here. Us. Plural. I stared at the dented metal. 1,000 questions raced each other. Who? How many? Why below? Why me? Before I could form any of them into soundless thought, a new terror arrived. Quiet but final. The basement door at the top of the stairs latched from the other side. I didn't need to test it. The sound was the kind that ended choices. I stepped closer to the metal door. My hand brushed the push plate, and the metal vibrated under my fingers, not from impact, but from breathing. The child leaned close enough that I felt warmth through steel. They locked you in. Now you're like us. The faint, almost light flickered. I heard new footsteps upstairs. More than one set. Soft. Coordinated, patient. The house had changed its rules. And then the child whispered the worst part. Don't worry, they don't hurt watchers. They make watchers into them. Something inside the metal door began uncoiling. Chains, maybe. Or restraints. Whatever exhaled there wasn't one person. The breath harmonized, many throats learning the same fear. I took one step back. On the wall near the door, my hand brushed something taped there. Paper. My eyes adjusted. Black ink on white. A new list of rules, shorter than the upstairs version. 1, don't show fear. 2, don't speak their names. 3, never look up. The footsteps overhead reached the top of the stairs again. This time they weren't alone, and they weren't trying to hide. I pressed myself into the cold, into stillness, into the hope that silence could be armor. It didn't matter, because the next sound was the scuff of feet beginning the descent, many feet, and a voice like a child imitating an adult's confidence. We see you, Sawyer. The house knew my name, and Friday felt 1,000 years away. We see you, Sawyer. Hearing your own name spoken wrong does something to the bones. The voice had the tone of someone playing with the shape of it in their mouth, unfamiliar with how syllables should behave. I flattened against the cold wall. The concrete drank the heat from my spine. I matched my breathing to the distant hum of the furnace, slow, mechanical, unalive. The feet descended without rhythm, each step a negotiation with gravity. Not heavy, not light, studied. I felt the darkness move. A figure reached the bottom of the stairs and paused. The air thinned as though it inhaled every molecule that dared reveal where I was. Another followed, then another. 3 silhouettes, then 4. All gathering in a semicircle where the glow from the bulb memory cast their edges like torn paper. And then I understood why the child warned me not to look up. Their heads didn't face forward, chins pointed skyward, necks stretched long and tense as though pulled by invisible hooks above. They listened not with ears, those were small wrong, but with something higher, sensing tremor, scent, pulse, motion. One lifted its hand, palm out, fingers trembling like antennae. Searching. Don't show fear. Don't speak their names. Never look up. The paper rules seared my thoughts. I locked my eyes forward, level. My knees pressed together to stop their shaking. One wrong twitch and I'd be seen. The tallest figure's head twitched down an inch, click like its gaze was a camera adjusting focus. It smelled the air. Lips parted, no teeth, only darkness. It stepped closer. The child behind the metal hissed through the door. Hold still. Hold still. Hold. The voice cut off in a gasp. A chain rattled. Something deeper in the metal room stirred, agitated by the watcher's proximity. One of the figures stopped inches from my face. I didn't blink. Couldn't blink. I smelled damp earth and rust and something sweet like spoiled fruit under sun. Its hand hovered over my cheek, tracking blood flow, tremor, temperature. My heartbeat betrayed me. Thump, thump, thump. Its fingers jumped each time, almost dancing. It leaned in, neck bending too smoothly. The joint didn't stop where a neck should stop. Face lowered toward mine. I felt its breath, cold as unfinished stone. Then a thud from inside the metal door. Violent. Wrong. A fist, a foot, a head. The watchers all jolted upward as one, head snapping vertical again, chins raised as though saluting an unseen master. And the knocking, fast and panicked, from the metal door erupted again. 3 knocks, 3 knocks, 3 knocks, but faster, pleading. The watchers lost interest in me. They turned toward the door, but not like humans turning. Their bodies rotated stiff, en bloc, as if the spine were one welded piece. They moved with stuttering speed, not silent except for skin rasping cloth. The tallest pressed its face against the metal, sniffing greedily, inhaling someone's terror like fresh air. A voice inside cried, "No, no, not again. Not again." Chains screamed. Something resisted. The watchers didn't knock. They peeled at the door edges with fingernails that clicked like metal tapping bone, trying to find leverage, trying to remove what held it shut. When the door didn't give, they backed away in eerie agreement, like a hive mind receiving the same instruction. They started to leave, one by one, ascending the stairs, heads tilted up again, sniffing the ceiling for disobedience. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Time worked for them. The house was their snare. When the last one vanished into the black above, the basement door clicked shut, locked again. The child exhaled a sob behind the metal. "They want you upstairs, Sawyer. They want you to replace someone." My throat closed. Replace who? The breathing chorus beyond the door answered, throats whispering hunger in harmony. The child spoke again, voice cracking. "They want watchers who follow rules. Then they take the ones we break." A chain inside shifted. Something with mass leaned closer. I forced my voice into a whisper thin enough to hide inside the dark. "How long have you been here?" The reply was immediate. Too immediate. A different voice. A man. "Don't ask questions. They like curiosity. Curiosity means you think you can still escape." A smaller voice chimed in, high and tight. "Ignore him. He panics everyone. We just need someone brave enough to open the door." Metal slid. The push plate flexed an inch. A tiny hand groped through, a child's fingers unnaturally cold. They clutched my wrist with desperate strength. "You can help us, or we can help you. Either way, you have to choose." I stared at that small hand, and every rule I'd been given fractured around it. Upstairs, the watchers walked again. Footsteps spread across the entire ceiling, more of them than before. The pacing wasn't random now. They moved with purpose, like mapping the boundaries of patience. I tried to keep calm as I whispered, "Why is this door here?" "Who put you?" The man cut me off with a strangled laugh. "You think this is a house? This is a harvest. This is where money looks like mercy." His laughter broke into choking gasps as if an unseen rope tightened. Then something else spoke. Not one voice, many, layered, broken, borrowed. "We see you, we hear you, we smell you. Not from above, from all around." The temperature dropped to winter. I watched frost bloom along the concrete near my feet, spreading toward me. The child yanked harder at my wrist. "Open it, please, open it." The watcher's footsteps rushed at once to the top of the stairs. The house vibrated with their arrival. Decision hit me like a punch. Stay still, become a watcher, move, become prey. Save them, break everything. A sharp metallic tick sounded above, the basement lock, twisting. I spun toward the stairs, a slow creak as the upstairs door opened again. That wrong, stretched silhouette filled the top step, and this time its head faced directly at me. Not tilted, not sniffing, seeing. Its mouth widened vertically like a split in old fabric, revealing nothing but hunger. The child screamed, "Move now!" I slammed my shoulder into the push plate. The metal door buckled under my weight. Screws whined, hinges screamed. The watchers shrieked in dissonant fury as they charged down the stairs. I shoved again, harder. The final hinge snapped. The door blew inward, and something grabbed me. Not a hand. Too many fingers. The world flipped, pulled into darkness, and the last thing I heard before the door slammed behind me was, Sawyer has joined us. Friday is canceled. The metal door clanged shut behind me like a tomb ceiling, and the dark swallowed every corner except one sickly stripe of light leaking from a vent overhead, breathing dust into the air like old lungs. Cold fingers still coiled around my arm, guiding me deeper. My vision adjusted slow, reluctant, afraid of what it might betray. The room wasn't empty. Not at all. Rows of beds, 6, maybe 7, lined tight against the walls, each holding a shape beneath a sheet. Too still, too even, like mannequins pretending to sleep. The child, impossibly small against the concrete, released my arm and stepped back. Their face was pale under the vent light, eyes huge and wrong in a way I couldn't place. They pointed up, trembling. That's where they take your voice first. I swallowed. The air tasted like copper and mold. My own voice sounded foreign to me. Why me? The child tilted their head as if analyzing a sound only they could hear. Because your face fits. A soft humming rose behind me, fluorescent bulbs sputtering to life with angry flickers. And suddenly I saw them clearly. The bodies under the sheets weren't sleeping. They were growing. Skin too smooth, fiberglass white, veins mapped like blueprints. Mouths unfinished, flat, no lips yet, like someone forgot what emotions were supposed to look like. Hair plugged in artificial patterns, too perfect to belong to anything alive. Their hands were the worst, only 3 fingers each. The watchers upstairs, this row of half-made people, were next. One closest to me twitched, muscles misfired beneath skin like worms under paper. Its chest rose, not with breath, but with inflation, as if pumped. My stomach lurched. They're making copies because they can't make themselves anymore. The voice came from my right, a man strapped upright to a surgical chair. Thick restraints bit deep into his wrists. Tubes fed from his spine into machinery humming low like a predator crouched behind metal. His face looked like mine. Not identical, but familiar enough that my throat closed around panic. We all think we're the first, he said, choking out a laugh sharp as broken glass. We wander in, they check the fit, then they carve the confidence out of you until you stop asking questions. A grinding sound vibrated through the walls, machinery activating somewhere deeper in the bunker. The beds shuddered. Sheets shifted. The bodies beneath strained to move. A hand shot upward from one bed, 3 fingers splayed wide, gripping the air like a drowning swimmer reaching for the surface. I stumbled back. The child grabbed my shirt, urgent. Don't get seen by the new ones. They remember faces, but wrong. The man in the chair wheezed, chest fluttering. They take what makes you human, piece by piece, until you're ready to go upstairs and pretend. He smiled, or they take it too soon, and you end up like them. Something scraped behind the bed row. A watcher shape, one finished, peeked from the shadows. Its head still aimed upward, but its body pivoted sharply, adjusting to the disturbance. The man in the chair tried to shout a warning. A searing alarm blared before he could finish. The watchers had found us. Footsteps hammered the stairs outside, multiple, rushing. The child screamed, "They know you broke the rules. They know you opened the door." The watchers flooded the window slit above, sniffing, jostling, eager. Then the lock scraped. The handle twitched. We had seconds. The child pointed to a narrow drainage pipe half rusted into the floor. Crawl. Now. I knelt fast, but the metal grate didn't budge. I dug my nails into the mesh until they split. The watchers forced the door. First push mild, second violent. Metal warped. The child began pulling a sheet off one of the growing bodies. What are you doing? Hide inside. They only see finished things. I stared at the not person lying stiff and incomplete, its chest still pumping with artificial life. The torso rose rhythmically, smooth, too smooth. No eyes, just indentations waiting to be filled. I shook my head violently. I can't. The child grabbed my jaw, forcing my stare into their eyes, flat, brown, and ancient with survival. They will wear you alive if you stay awake for it. Another slam. The lock splintered. Arms, long and pale, reached through, snapping hinges. The room shrieked with metal and hunger. I made my choice. I climbed into the cold skin beside me, shoving my legs under its weight, pressing my chest against its waxy ribs. The child flung the sheet over us by, sealing me in the scent of preservatives and something sweet boiling into rot. The body, my placeholder, quivered as my warmth touched it, like it believed we were one. Dark. Sweat prickled my eyes. The child whispered through fabric, "Don't move. Don't breathe too loud. Don't let them finish you." The door exploded inward. Watchers poured in, sniffing, chins raised, then snapping downward sporadically. Their limbs jerked in clumsy hunger as they scanned for movement. Sheets around me rustled, unfinished copies reacting to fear, twitching like newborn things sensing predators. I forced breath shallow, heart slow. One watcher approached my bed. It pressed 3 fingers against my cheek through the sheet, testing heat, texture, truth. I recited my rules inside my skull, burning them into stillness. Don't show fear. Don't speak their names. Never, never look up. The hand withdrew. I waited for triumph to ignite in me. Instead, a whisper from the body beside me. Too close. Too wrong. Soon we match. Soon we trade. My blood froze solid. The watchers dragged screaming bodies from the surgical chair. The man's voice shredded into a gargling plea. "Sawyer, don't let them finish your..." His words dissolved into a wet, choking sound as he was hauled toward machines that hummed with creation. Then footsteps receded. The metal door sealed again. Silence fell so heavy it felt like a second skin. I counted to 30, then to 100, then to 300. No movement, no breathing nearby but mine. I lifted the sheet a fraction, enough to see the child sitting cross-legged by the pipe, face streaked with sweat and dust, eyes locked on me. Their voice, low, resigned, cut deeper than any scream. "You passed their test." My throat croaked. "What test?" The child turned their gaze toward the sealed door. "To see if you'll replace him, because he didn't fit." They leaned close, so close their whisper warmed my ear. "And you're a perfect match, Sawyer, upstairs. Your copy is almost ready." They pointed at the bed across the aisle. The sheet there rose and fell, and beneath it a face identical to mine slowly formed lips and smiled. The sheet slid off my copy like a stage curtain rising. My own face stared back, but it was clean, untouched. No exhaustion bruising the eyes, no fear tightening the jaw, no small imperfections earned from living a real life. The child stiffened beside me. "That's the one they like." My double blinked. A smooth action. Precise. Calculated. Then he smiled. "Hello, Sawyer." My voice, without the trembling, the watchers shuffled behind him, silent guardians, chins angled skyward once more, listening for disobedience. But the one wearing my face? He lowered his head perfectly straight. He could look without breaking rules. I tried to step back, but my heel hit the surgical chair. I was trapped between the unfinished and the perfected. The copy sat upright, joints unfolding with clinical grace. You made things difficult for them, breaking routine, changing expected outcomes. He chuckled softly. They enjoy challenges, at first, but there must be order. He slid off the bed and stood barefoot on the cold floor. The watchers leaned subtly away from him. Not fear, respect. "Who? What are you?" He seemed delighted that I asked. "I'm you, of course," without the burden of uncertainty. He tapped his chest with 2 elegant fingers. "I won't fear the things you fear. I won't question the rules you question." A watcher brushed my arm as if reminding me to remain still. Upgrades didn't require momentum, just compliance. My double approached, eyes opening a fraction too wide, farther than mine ever could. He wore eagerness like a coat. "I will love the people you love, protect what you've broken, provide what you failed to provide." A surge of nausea twisted through me. "You can't protect anyone. You're a puppet." He tilted his head, not in confusion but in gentle correction. "No, I'm the solution. You are the question." His hands reached toward my shoulders, slow, polite, inevitable. "Come back upstairs with me. Sit in your kitchen, drink your coffee, smile at them the way you never could." He leaned in. "Let me help." The watchers surrounded us now, 4, 6, maybe more. Their bodies blocked every exit. The room's concrete seemed to shrink inward, ready to seal the deal. He took my right wrist, holding it with tenderness that felt like mockery. "Your life isn't being stolen, Sawyer." He squeezed, just shy of pain. "It's being perfected." A drip of sweat slid down my spine. "What happens to me?" His answer was soothing and cruel. "You'll rest. Your voice will fade first. They'll take it gently, a pause, and I'll speak better on your behalf. He brushed a loose strand of hair from my forehead like a brother preparing his sibling for a photograph. Where do they keep my voice? His eyes flicked toward the machinery. A brief betrayal. A tower of humming metal where tubes pulsed with stolen heat. He caught himself smiling at his own mistake. Ah, yes, the harvest. He said the word with awful reverence. They remove what drags you down. Fear, joy, anger, doubt, all the noise. He tapped his temple lightly. When I'm finished, I will be loved without ever needing love. I yanked my arm back. He let go, easily. Resistance is normal at this stage. He gestured for the watchers to stay back. You are afraid. That's what makes you defective. He circled the room at an even pace, like a lecturer preparing an eager audience. Up there, people want certainty, comfort, predictability. Do you know how exhausting you are to them? How unpredictable? His smile widened. Not cruel. Worse, understanding. That's why I'm here. The child ducked behind a bed, trembling. The watchers began to close in again, heads still angled to the ceiling as their feet triangulated around me. Predator choreography disguised as ritual. My copy extended one hand. Take it. Accept the upgrade. The air around me filled with a low vibration, the machines waking fully. It wasn't noise. It was invitation. He stepped closer. Think about it. You'll never disappoint anyone again. Something in me snapped. A tiny feral spark. I'm not a mistake. For the first time, my double frowned, disappointed more than angry. You've already lost. Everything upstairs belongs to me now. The memories I choose to share, the feelings I choose to mimic. He leaned forward, breath too steady. You'll disappear into peace, and I will live the life you never were brave enough to live. Behind him, the door lock rattled again. More watchers coming. He saw my glance. No running. You know there's nowhere left to go. He opened his arms for an embrace, mocking salvation. Sawyer, give yourself permission to be replaced. I pretended to freeze just a second, long enough to make him believe I'd decided. Then I said the one thing he didn't expect. You're wrong. His eyes narrowed. I don't fear disappointing them. I stepped closer, right into his shadow, and whispered, I fear becoming you. For the first time, he hesitated. A watcher paused mid-step, uncertainty rippling through the hive like static. My double's perfectly curated voice cracked, just once. The harvesters chose you because you're weak. I smiled. They chose me because I'm alive. Every watcher froze. Every breath in the room held still. The child whispered from somewhere low and dark, he made a mistake. He challenged you. My double's hand twitched, panic creeping into the upgrade. Sawyer, stop. Too late. I looked up, straight into the ceiling, where their rules said a watcher's senses lived, and I shouted, come and get me. The room exploded with movement, claws scraping concrete, bodies snarling void deep, hunger unmasked. The perfect replacement's face shattered into dread. And now, for the first time, I was the one they wanted to harvest alive. I ran. Not smart, not strategic. Just pure survival, ripping through bone and instinct. Watchers shrieked behind me, screams layered like radio static and animal hunger, no longer careful, no longer quiet. I had broken the ritual balance. I had looked up. Concrete slammed my racing footsteps, echoing like a signal flare through the bunker's veins. The child sprinted at my side, impossibly fast for someone so small. Not the stairs, they wait there. They want you to go up. Their breath felt cold, even while running. We have to go deeper, break their map. We darted down a slanted corridor where the air thickened with old iron stench. Moisture ran in rivulets across the floor, reflecting red emergency lights flickering awake. The watchers surged behind us, feet slapping concrete in uneven cadence. They didn't chase like animals. They chased like programs correcting an error. My double's voice cut through the chaos, unnerving in its calm. Sawyer, don't embarrass yourself. I didn't look back. We rounded a corner and stopped dead. A massive steel gate loomed across the tunnel, grated like a prison wall. Behind it, nothing but black, the kind of darkness that felt like it breathed. No latch, no keypad, no salvation. I slammed my fists against it anyway. The metal didn't care. Footsteps slowed behind us. The watchers entered the corridor with ritual precision, filling space shoulder to shoulder, head still angled upward, listening to my panic. My double walked between them, immaculate even in pandemonium. Don't be scared. You're simply the incorrect version. He smiled softly. Let me finish what they started. The child tugged at my shirt, urgency rising. Use your voice. What? Your voice is still yours. Use it. They only respond to, the child swallowed the end of the sentence like a forbidden name, to fear. The nearest watcher snapped its head toward the child, sensing the secret. My double exhaled, annoyed. Rules protect you, Sawyer, and you keep disobeying. He raised one hand. A command. The watchers lunged. I screamed. Not words, just raw terror ripped straight from the spine. And the watchers froze, every single one, as if terror short-circuited their programming. As if my fear wasn't a weakness, but a weapon. My double's mask cracked, a flicker of calculations behind glass green eyes. You're imprinting on them. That shouldn't be possible. The child stared at me, realization blooming like fire. You still have your voice. You can command them. The ground shook. Metal groaned behind the gate, gears grinding awake from decades of silence. A faint glow pulsed on the other side, warm, gold, and familiar. I grabbed the gate and shouted, not with fear this time, but fury. Open. It obeyed. The steel lifted in a thunderstorm of bolts and echoing chains. My double's voice rose, finally afraid. Stop that door! The watchers convulsed, fighting the order in their bones, caught between two masters. Their mouths opened wide enough to tear skin, shrieking, glitching noises as loyalties warred inside their unfinished souls. The child pushed me through the rising gap. I rolled into the darkness. The gate slammed shut behind me. Then silence. Not relief. The kind of silence that watches. I stood slowly, heart ricocheting in my chest. The corridor ahead sloped down toward a soft amber glow, like candlelight in a cathedral buried underground. As I walked, the walls changed. Concrete turning to polished stone, carved symbols catching the warm light. This wasn't a bunker. This was older. This was built before the house above ever existed. A chamber opened wide before me. Rows of objects sat on pedestals, small glass containers holding sounds. A baby's laugh, a gasp, a whispered name, a scream. I heard them before I understood what they were. Harvested voices. Mine was somewhere here, waiting. Another pedestal, this one empty, bore a plaque that made my blood turn anaerobic. Sawyer, intake pending. The glow pulsed. A vertical cylinder stood in the center, fluid swirling inside, and floating within it, my double, or rather the next, more complete version. Skin fully formed, eyes open, watching. He pressed his palm to the glass, mirroring my motion. The chamber door clicked behind me. My double from the basement stepped inside, face now stripped of warmth. Watchers lined the walls behind him like soldiers awaiting a verdict. He spoke softly, the way doctors do before the anesthesia. You found the archive. It's beautiful, isn't it? He approached slowly. This is where we keep what makes humans flawed. He circled me, admiring the product he would replace. Your voice isn't a weapon, Sawyer. It's a commodity. He tapped the plaque under the glass cylinder. Your expiration date has been set. He raised two fingers. The watchers stepped forward in unison. I felt the last breath of freedom leave my lungs as he leaned close and whispered with my perfect voice, "Let me speak for you now." My double stood inches from me, arms spread like he was welcoming a lost friend home. But his eyes, my eyes, were empty, a hollow gallery of mimicry. Behind him, the watchers awaited their cue. The glass cylinder hissed as bubbles spiraled around the new me. The version ripened in silence. It stared through the liquid with a look that wasn't curiosity. It was impatience. The child appeared at my side, quiet as regret. You must take back your voice before they feed it into him. My pulse slammed against my ribs. How? The child pointed to the pedestals. Dozens of jars holding stolen sound, each labeled, each a life. You know which one is yours. You'll feel it find you. My double approached one pedestal, his hand hovering over a jar labeled joy. Joy. Redacted. A laugh shimmered inside the glass like sunlight on water. He smiled. This one was removed first. You were 9. You stopped laughing the day he left. He glanced at me without turning his head. You remember the truck door closing. You remember the silence afterward. My throat tightened. Memories pressed like ice against the skull. The child hissed. He's trying to break you faster. My double set the jar back with surgical care, choosing another. Fear. Fear. Developmental, a soft, shaking whimper lived inside. You lost this on the night you pretended you weren't scared. They loved you more brave, so you erased the proof you weren't. He smiled again. Gentle, charitable. I'll handle fear better than you ever did. Something inside me snapped, cleanly, like a bone finally realigning. I stepped forward. Stay away from them. My double tilted his head. He wasn't angry. He was amused. Sawyer, you don't understand. We don't survive with these. He gestured across the archive. We survive up there by being predictable, by not upsetting the balance, by being easy to love. He moved to another jar, this one unmarked. Inside, a single phrase drifted like smoke. I'm not enough. He tapped it lightly. This is the final piece they need from you. Once this is gone, you'll finally feel peace. I felt my knees weaken. The child grabbed my hand, desperate. He's almost finished. Take your voice back. I turned to the jars, reaching toward one radiating warmth like a heartbeat. But my double stepped between us. Don't. He spoke softly. Once you reclaim them, the Watchers will see you as a threat. They will end you. For the first time, that didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like fear. I met his eyes, forcing steel into my words. You're terrified of me. He laughed, brittle and sharp. No, I'm terrified of what they'll do when you remember who you are. He caught my wrist, iron grip disguises affection. Please, don't make this painful. Surrender is mercy. The child snarled. He's lying. I inhaled deeply, letting the room know I was choosing my own narrative, and screamed, "It back!" Every jar shattered. Voices poured into me, screams, laughs, tears, whispering courage, roaring rage, all of it mine. The chamber trembled. Lights burst, symbols along the walls lit with molten memory. My mind flooded. Dad kneeling to hug me goodbye, Mom crying behind a locked bathroom door, my first fear, my last hope. Every crack they'd carved into my identity sealed shut with liquid resolve. The Watchers shrieked, spines twisting, hands clawing their own heads as they recoiled. My double, the upgrade, stumbled back, horror dilating his pupils. That's impossible. You were supposed to break. I smiled, vicious and alive. I did break. That's why I'm stronger. He rushed me, fast, unnatural, but I stepped into him, shouting with a voice now thick with everything they tried to erase. Stop! Every Watcher collapsed. Some fell to their knees. Others slammed to the floor, twitching like marionettes with severed strings. My double froze mid-stride, teeth bared in a mimicry of rage he wasn't designed to feel. Sawyer, they will unmake you. He reached for me with trembling fingers, no longer in control. The child tugged my sleeve. Finish him, or he'll always be waiting. I faced the glass cylinder, where the newest version of me pounded against the walls, desperate to be born. The fluid drained rapidly. It was being unleashed. My double, voice fracturing, pleaded, "Please, don't destroy perfection." I touched the cylinder's surface, palm to palm with the creature inside. My voice, my true voice, cut the air. Perfection isn't human. The glass shattered. Liquid rushed out along with the thing that wanted my life. It lunged. I caught it by the throat. It wasn't ready to breathe. Its perfect lips parted, fighting for air, fighting to live someone else's destiny. I whispered, "You don't get to replace me. I already earned this life," and I spoke a final command. Silence. Its body seized. Eyes rolled white, and the thing that wanted to be me dissolved into dust. My double collapsed, faltering like a card tower in a breeze, bones softening, features melting into unfinished clay. He looked up, broken, shaking, whispering, "Sawyer, please, I don't want to be nothing." I knelt. "You're not nothing. You're part of me." I placed my hand on his chest. His breathing steadied, not alive, but peaceful. The Watchers lay still, obedient but uncertain who they now belonged to. The child stepped forward, eyes full of night and hope. If you go upstairs, you can never come back. I looked toward the stairs, the path out, past the vault of stolen voices, past the Watchers bowing their crooked bodies, back to the world that didn't know what walked beneath it. I asked the child, what will happen to them? The Watchers, they serve the voice that stands. I nodded, understanding the weight. Then I turned toward the steps, every footfall carrying a reborn truth. I do not need to be perfect to deserve the life I have lived. Behind me, my double's final whisper faded into warmth. Take care of them. Take care of us. And for the first time, I looked up because the world above finally belonged to me. The stairs creaked under my weight like they'd forgotten how to expect someone back. The basement door opened easier than it ever had before, like the house welcomed a survivor more than it ever welcomed prey. The kitchen glowed with soft dawn light. Birds sang outside. Coffee waited in the pot. Fresh. It shouldn't have been. Because I hadn't made it. My heart knew a trap when it tasted ease. But this wasn't a trap. This was a life, daring me to step back into it. Outside, the sky blushed orange. A neighbor's dog barked like every other morning I'd taken for granted. For one long stretch of breath, the world looked normal. But it wasn't. Everything above my home had shifted, nudged into uncanny alignment. Too still, too quiet beneath the birds. The air tasted like a secret being kept. Footsteps entered the kitchen, soft, careful not to wake the past. It was the child. They stood in a clean shirt and borrowed jeans, arms wrapped around themselves as though hugging a memory. Their eyes adjusted to the light slowly, like they hadn't seen a sunrise in a long time. Are we safe? I didn't know how to define safe anymore. I knelt, meeting their gaze. We're free. Free isn't always safe, but it's ours. They nodded, trusting that distinction somehow. We sat at the table. I poured 2 cups of coffee, one mostly milk. The child held the mug like it was a relic of a forgotten civilization. Do people get to stay with themselves up here? The question hurt in places therapy hadn't touched. Sometimes, I said, when they fight for it. Their head lowered. I'll learn to fight, I smiled. You already have. Silence settled, comfortable human, until the cellar door clicked behind us, not opening, just locking, automatically. The child swallowed hard. They're waiting. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I felt them beneath the wood, not scratching, not banging, guarding. Watchers, those who survived, knelt in the dark beneath my kitchen. I hadn't commanded them to disappear, to die, to be forgotten. I had only commanded silence. They obeyed, and they stayed. Because the child was right. The world above didn't know how to keep itself safe. The watchers would learn. I would make sure they learned better. I finished my coffee, the warmth and anchor inside my chest. I tried the light switch. The bulb hummed alive without flicker. Power restored. Life restored. Almost. I looked out the window across the yard. The neighbor watering her plants paused mid-motion. She stared toward my house, long enough that instinct nudged warning through my ribs. Her posture stiffened. Head tilted up, too far. Listening. Then she turned away and continued watering as if nothing happened. Hope and dread braided inside me. The watchers weren't the only ones that learned. The child watched me watch her. You saw that too, right? I nodded slowly. There are more. Everywhere, maybe. Because this wasn't one house's secret. This was a system. A supply chain of silence. And I had just broken the assembly line. That's when I understood the shape of the hopeful horror ahead. I hadn't destroyed the watchers. I had made them mine. I stood and walked to the basement door, laying my palm flat on the wood, pressing warmth into the cold spaces. A pledge. No one gets replaced again. Not on my watch. Behind the door, bodies shifted, acknowledging command. Waiting. Not hungry. Loyal. The child's voice softened behind me. What do we do now? I opened the back door and stepped into the sunlight, its brightness almost offensive after so much engineered dark. We live. We protect. We stay loud. The child followed, blinking into the warmth like a plant remembering how to grow. And if they come back, they whispered. I smiled without looking back. Then we remind them we were the originals. We walked toward the driveway, toward the life that was once mine. No, now fully mine, while the watchers waited below for the next command. Survival wasn't a scream anymore. It was a promise that the perfect upgrade was nothing compared to the imperfect human who refused to go quiet.